Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcast can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, posts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now and join the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Oh, good morning, good afternoon, evening, wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's weekly live series, The Weekly Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time, please subscribe, like, comment, or follow. Get ready this evening, or this next half hour tonight, psychic medium, grief counselor, and social media influencer on TikTok and Facebook, Traci DiCaprio has spent 9 years in recovery and 20 years in polysubstance addiction. Tonight, we will discuss her story and how she fought through this. Let's welcome tonight, Traci DiCaprio.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. A good hand for you. Yeah.
As you said, I'm Traci. 20 years polysubstance. What that means is it didn't matter what. My drug of choice was drugs, period. I learned really early on that being a psychic medium from birth, this never stopped. And I realized very early on, substances stopped it.
Yeah.
So it was really easy to fall into addiction for me.
Now, what was the trigger that you think, especially for people out there that want to pay attention, be apprehensive of their environment? What triggered this for you?
Trauma.
Trauma.
Childhood trauma. But when my son passed away when I was 19, I think that was the final trauma that kind of pushed me over the edge. I had messed around with things before then, as teenagers do. But when my son passed, I believe that all addiction is rooted directly. If you take a person that has a substance use disorder and you walk it backwards, you're going to find where that trauma came in, whether it be abuse, molestation, neglect, bullying, whatever that initial trauma was. Because at that point, I believe the person with substance use disorder loses their power.
Yeah.
And that we don't regain that back until we decide to get rid of our trauma, because that was the root of it for me. In 20 years of using, I had periods of sobriety. They never really lasted. And I never really could figure out why, because right here I wanted it. It was here that I was fighting. I went into a rehab facility 9 years ago, and they literally sat with me and said, we're unboxing all of this. I worked through it all. They saved my life, because walking out of there for the first time, I didn't feel like I was walking out with all these weights attached to me and, what am I going to do? And all these secrets and all these feelings and emotions that I didn't know how to handle because I had just suppressed them for so long.
Yeah.
So.
Now, were you in? Did you do mediumship before this and psychic work before this? When did that play in as far as your work as a psychic medium?
I did do work during my times of sobriety. I never wanted to work for someone under the influence.
Yeah.
I always felt like I wouldn't get a connection that was good in any way, energetically. So,
yeah.
And I said, I would have those periods of time where I would be like, I'm going to make it. And then the slightest little, and I would be off and running again.
Yeah. And hence, interestingly enough, you know, when it comes to alcohol, and that's where spirits got its name.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to someone about that today. That's exactly why. And you know, I believe it broad brings in like a darker entity in the spirit.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, think about it. Bars are never lit up.
Mm.
You know, things like that can't go into the light. They have to go into the dark. So
Yeah.
we know
Yeah.
that from our own work.
Yeah. It alcohol or any substance that's not originally supposed to be in the body opens us up and opens up our vulnerability to be attacked, psychically attacked by anything,
Yes.
other people. Now, so you're currently in recovery?
I'm currently in recovery. I'll be celebrating my 10th year on April 16th.
Woo. Congratulations.
So,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
and it's crazy because like when you first start going through it, you're like, I'm not gonna make it 10 seconds. And then the 10 seconds, you're like, okay, I'm definitely not making it 10 minutes, you know? And it's like, holy crap, I made it 10 years. And things have changed because I deal with things now. Honesty is always my utmost first thing. Like I have to be honest. I always tell people, I'm sorry, I've got to be blunt. You know, I can't hold anything back. And that's what I learned through my recovery process, dealing with that trauma, being honest, not hiding anything. All that stuff creates that feeling of not feeling good about yourself. And so you're not going to do anything to make yourself better, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing that's really hot right now on TikTok, there is so much misinformation about what addiction is. And do you mind if I touch on that a little bit?
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Because of media and the world right now, I guess, a lot of people think if a person has chronic pain and they take opiates that they're an addict. You know, no, they're dependent. There is a huge difference between dependency and addiction. You know, a person that's dependent might get physically ill without medication. An addict's gonna go running into the streets and pawn everything they own and rob your grandma and, you know, like do crazy things. And the fentanyl epidemic that's going on right now is all illicit fentanyl. And they don't ever differentiate between medical and illicit. So we have a lot of people now that are afraid to get treatment for things that they need because they're afraid of getting addicted, you know. And I really think that misinformation really kind of hurts a lot of people. And addiction don't even have to be a substance. It can be a thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, and that there's a lot of, I wouldn't say conflict, but there's a lot of people don't understand the definition of addiction, where addiction is to where it hinders you from being able to do what you would normally be able to do, to be able to function correctly in society, for you to have to change your habits. And I mean, like you said, I mean, you're pawning off all the stuff that you own just to make a couple bucks to pay for a bottle.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. You know, I mean, you're addict people I think that have addiction, and I believe that there are select people at birth that have a more propensity to be have an addiction.
Yeah.
But from birth, it's like if you watch, my mom was like, when you were a kid, like you always wanted all the candy, like everything, you know. So it was like from even a young age, like I wanted it all and I couldn't stop, and you know, like that little thing that shuts off people's brains just wasn't quite
there. Yep. Yeah, it's like, when a child, you have a bunch of cookies and stuff like that. They always want to grab more than one or two or three, the whole pan. It's like, come on, one at a time.
And what kills me is like, you know, we treat addiction like a crime. That would be like, to me, because I know addiction is literally an illness that requires treatment in order to kind of get through it and maintain. The thing that kind of we started talking about that kind of got me here, you know, they put people in jail and the average sentence is about 365 days where they make them detox usually without any help, which is dangerous. Um, and then they take them at the most critical moment and they dump them back out.
Wow.
People don't realize that your brain can take upwards of 10 years to heal. Like, I feel like my brain's finally coming together, and it's
Yeah.
been almost 10 years. And I remember
Yeah.
somebody telling me that in the beginning, and I'm like, there's no way. No, it's serious.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. When they call these, and that's the thing, some of these prisons and jails are calling them rehab facilities. I'm going, really? I'm like, okay, what are they rehabbing? They're not rehabbing. They're just babysitting.
yeah.
You know. So, um, have you noticed over the course of the last 10 years, after getting off the substances and stuff like that, have you noticed a heightened sense of awareness and a heightened sense of your abilities to be able to read and psychic mediumship and stuff?
Yes. Around the 5th year, I really noticed it. The information was much more clear, much more confident. Where
Yeah.
it used to kind of be like, does that make sense? You know, now I'm like, I know that makes sense. You know, like it's, I feel more connected. I'm able to do more study and practice in the spiritual realm because when you're messed up, you can't. You can't meditate drunk. Like, you
No.
just go to sleep.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Now, and that's what's interesting too, is when I started studying certain um, spiritual um, aspects to different cultures. Now it's different in different cultures. Now, like if you go to like parts of Africa and parts of the Caribbean, what's known as Santeria or Santero, um, some of the Babalaos and priests and stuff like that actually consume alcohol in order for them to be able to pretty much be taken over.
Mhm.
But they're allowing themselves to be possessed.
Right.
Um, but as mediums, there's times when we want to, do some seances, you know, or do some sitting and stuff like that, to where we want to channel information and maybe have a spirit step in. But as far as the use of alcohol, no, no.
I think
I mean,
control is coming.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm I have to admit that I've been to some seances or and some readings and stuff like that. That I'll open up the circle or open up the evening, doing some shamanistic work and the use of whiskey or the use of a spirits, to be able to open up the circle as an offering to the spirits that are coming in. But as far as like consumption of it and stuff like that, it's more of an offering. So
Well, even like when you do, like, I've been to spiritual circles, like they open with a drink of wine or even like a little glass of wine. We're talking like this much. It's not enough to intoxicate.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I didn't have that limit. It was all or nothing. It was.
yeah, yeah. Um, so let the as far as giving some of our listeners and viewers some pointers for those that are either experiencing or trying to get off of the substances or also in recovery, what suggestions would you offer them?
Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. There is an amazing community on social media, on all social media platforms that I have found, with some of the most amazing people. Addiction recovery has become a lot less judgmental. So if you're kind of like, oh, I don't want to go into that because I've heard like, I can't have coffee, I can't have sugar, I can't smoke cigarettes, it's not quite like that anymore. There's very many paths to recovery. And I think a lot more of us understand that. And it's not like an abstinence only kind of thing anymore. The use of plants, the use of hallucinogenics. Some people can drink alcohol. You know what I mean? It's like finding those limits for yourself. Um, Being really honest. That's a big thing in going into recovery. You got to learn to be honest with yourself, with other people. really identifying those trauma markers, where it started, how to let it go. And if you don't know how to let it go, find help, find therapists, find counselors, find other people in recovery that can kind of help you pull it out. I call it cutting cords because of the work I do.
Yeah.
These cords literally hold you back, and you have to literally cut them away from you in order to go forward. We collect so many of them on an energetic level, and it's when we add in the addiction and the substance use disorders to that, it's like taking 100 wires and making it 100,000, because we're compounding all of our problems. When we're using, we're not dealing, so we're shoving down. That's why a lot of times people stunt their mental growth at the age they started using substances. It's not the substance that's doing it, it's the fact they've never emotionally had to deal with things from that point to wherever they're at now.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Now, as a psychic medium and the work and the readings that you do, um, have you noticed other than the general population that is reaching out to you, what percentage of people have you noticed that you're doing readings for, are also suffering from, I wouldn't say suffering from, are also going through substance abuse and are reaching out to you as a medium to be able to give them guidance from the spirit world as well?
I would say probably 60% of my clients either are in active addiction or in recovery.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we feel that from each other. I understand it on a level that, another person that's never been through it wouldn't. I had a therapist one time tell me it really a really good way. She's like, I'm like the plumber and you're the
Yeah.
roofer.
Yeah. 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 And and like you said too, this it's almost like it's a community effort or a village effort. Not one person can, not everybody can heal themselves. It takes help.
I can't,
It
we
takes
can't.
assistance. Yeah. Yeah.
I I fully believe that. I know, like, I do a lot with TikTok. And that community on TikTok is amazing, the recovery community. There's so
Yeah.
many people on so many different levels, from brand new to 50 years, you know what I mean, that are willing to help you. And that's a big thing. You got to be willing to talk about it. The hardest
Yeah.
thing, I think, when you're kind of coming to grips with, I've got a problem, is the next thing is, how do I tell the people I love? Chances
Mm,
are they kind of know, they're waiting for you. I mean, if as long as you're not like already to that point of like jail and overdose,
yeah.
they've been waiting for you to kind of
Admit to it.
admit to it, because
Yeah.
you can't force anybody, no matter how much you want. I have family members that are very heavily in active addiction, and as
Mm,
much as I want to grab them and be like, "You're doing this," I can't. I know I can't.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
really gotta want to do it. You can't force them to do it.
Yeah. The most effective and efficient way to fix a problem is to admit that there is one.
You absolutely have to admit it. And I'm not a big step worker. Like, I'm not like the 12 steps. But in my own way, it's like the 12 steps are kind of like admit, see what you've done, fix it, and then help others. It's that simple. It's like
Yeah.
life. Admit you got something going on, figure out why, fix it, help somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, have the now as a grief counselor, what work do you do as a grief counselor?
I
You
work
can
with a lot
explain
of
or
I work with a lot of parents who've lost children. When I was 19, my son Anthony passed from SIDS, and my first readings, like for real for other people, were in the compassionate friends room.
Mhm.
So a lot of my clients became from there with parents that had lost children. So I work
Yeah.
with a lot with grief with that. Um, that's mainly my grief counseling, is parents. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't want to touch that work.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as a medium, first, where can people find you? Let me because I had a Facebook page. Let's see, I did put the Facebook. Was it the Rev Traci 815?
Yep, Traci D815
Okay,
at Gmail.
so
I'm
they
on
can find that one.
Facebook, TikTok. My TikTok is Tracy Ferry 420 underscore recovery.
Ah,
Also on Instagram, same name, and YouTube. Although I really haven't really started doing anything with YouTube yet.
yeah.
I'm
Now,
getting
as far as the email, let me edit your email in here real quick. What's a current email that people can reach out to you for?
Tracy D815 at Gmail.
Okay.
There's a comment in here from Spirit Medium Daniel that I kind of want to address because that's exactly right. There is no rehab in prison, and they do make money from them being in there, and I think that's why they get cycled through. They don't want to help do what it takes to help them break the addiction.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, Daniel says I worked in prison for 6 years in the medical, and there is no rehab.
None.
They
And
want them
what's
to be in
scary
prison.
is people, when you detox from alcohol, benzodiazepines, those can be deadly. And people are going into the jails and literally dying while they're trying to detox.
Oof.
And I really feel like the misinformation that's out there and the lack of information that's out there, it's not a comfortable subject. Nobody wants to talk about it. You know what I mean? But we really need to as a society because it's really an issue. We had over 100,000 people die last year of
Wow.
overdose alone. That's higher than it's ever been, even though the CDC is, got these strict guidelines and people can't get medication for surgeries. And, like we had, I think it was 107,000 people last year died from overdose.
Wow. Now that's not just the fentanyl overdoses. That's like just
That's
everything
all of
else.
it. But the
Yeah.
illicit fentanyl really played a big part in it.
Yeah. It didn't help.
They
No.
really, I mean, this might sound kind of crazy because I am in recovery, but I do understand the importance of harm reduction in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
They took the safe supply away from people when they took like medication from people, even though they were doing wrong with it. And I know it's going to sound crazy, but in my opinion, when they took that away, they opened the market for the illicit fentanyl. With
Ooh.
that, you don't know if you're getting 1 microgram or 50 milligrams. So you know what I mean? There's no regulation in it. And
Yeah.
people are making the medication look like it using that. And people are taking it and not knowing what they're taking.
Yeah, I'm hearing stories that they're making it look like Tylenol. They're making it look like, all kinds of
Everything.
over-the-counter things.
In 2018, my nephew passed away after taking what he thought was a muscle relaxer that was loaded with fentanyl.
Oh,
10 days
man.
after his father passed.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
It
Wow.
was awful. He even told my aunt, I'm gonna go take a muscle relaxer and lay down. It wasn't a muscle relaxer. He was loaded with fentanyl.
Ooh.
You
So
know, and
I would assume he got it from a friend that said, "Hey, here's a muscle relaxer."
Yeah.
Or something. I mean, if you got it at a pharmacy from a doctor, that wouldn't have happened.
That's what I mean by the safe supply. They took the safe supply off the streets
Jeez.
and replaced it with this.
Wow.
It blows my mind because over 100,000 people in 1 year to be gone.
Huh.
That's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem. It just makes you want to think that, okay, yeah, is this a plan? Is this a plan from the other side to where it's like a form of depopulation?
I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it.
I said it first.
Thank you.
I opened up the door.
Because it's like, what in the world? Why are we doing this? You know,
Yeah.
and then, you know, the news is like fentanyl, 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 fentanyl. You know, and it's like, it's not the chronic pain patients. It's not the person that goes in for heart surgery. It's not the person that broke their leg. It's not those people. They're being punished though, right along with people with substance use disorder.
Man.
You know, it kills me because it's like, I can see it. I know everybody, I know other people can see it.
Yep.
You know, and I mean, I do agree America as a whole has really treated everything with a pill. We sit out there at night and watch commercials. You know, do you breathe? Do you blink? You know, do you have emotions? Are you happy, sad, glad, mad? We got a pill for that, you know?
Yeah. It's like there's a pill. There's a pill for everything.
Do you wake up in the morning and go to sleep at night? We got one for that.
Yeah. And if there's not a pill for it, there's an app for it.
Right. We got you covered every way you're going.
Exactly. Oh man. Yeah. And the thing is too, how have you seen the different sides of things, like as far as the alcohol side, the alcohol addiction side, compared to the pills, all the other drugs?
So with me, alcohol, cocaine, and methamphetamine were easier to let go of. Like I had addictions, but I feel like they were more mental addictions than physical. When I got on the benzodiazepines and opiates, that became a physical addiction. And I had never really experienced that before. When I didn't have it, I got very, very sick.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably the biggest difference. I never drank to the point where I got sick if I didn't drink. Though I know very many people that have. You know, they
Yeah.
wake up shaking, or I can't function until I drink something, you know. But the benzos and the opiates, I would say, probably grab people the hardest because there's such a physical dependence on them.
Yeah.
I really wish that they would educate people, because I really feel like keeping it all in the dark makes it so much worse.
Yeah. Educate without advertising is what they should do. Is somewhere in the public school systems have, I wouldn't say a course, but like a day of, and I remember that. I remember in public education, we used to have, there was like a representative from the Orange County Sheriff's Office would come over, and we'd sit in the auditorium, and there would be like this hour or two long presentation, and they'd teach you what each drug was, what it could do, what the potentials were, and what it looks like. Stay away from this. But at the same time, it's very tricky, especially today, because you want to educate everybody, not only the children, but the adults too, because some of us out there are kind of, really? So, and it's like, you want to educate, but you don't want to advertise.
Right.
Like, hey, here's some candy, But
I was the first graduating class of DARE in Genesee County, Michigan, when the DARE program was introduced. And literally, we took it in the 6th grade, and I think 90% of us suffered addiction issues.
Yeah.
But we grew up in Flint, Michigan. That was traumatic in itself,
Yeah.
I know my father was an alcoholic and an addict. He's 78 and only has a year clean, but I'm proud of him for it.
Yeah. That also brings up the idea or the thought too, when you look at demographics and you look at areas around the country. I mean, I'm not calling out something, and it's just an observation. Now tell me if you kind of agree with this. If you look at some of like the Midwestern states where there's not really much of an economy, a big, not like Central Florida where it's all tourism and stuff like that. You go into these like really small towns and stuff, and whether the drug use and dealing is much higher and the death rate is much higher because of the economy. Have you noticed things like that?
Definitely noticed that. Flint, Michigan, where I grew up, the economy fell out with GM. When GM left, that city went bankrupt. Um, it's gotten so bad now because of that. Like, because I feel like hurt people hurt people. So you have all these people in these small towns or cities or these factory towns, and it's generations. Your grandparents, your grandparents, 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 grandparents live there. You know what I mean? They all work for GM. So you have all these people in this generational circle doing the same thing over and over again and never really getting to know what breaking that circle means.
Yeah.
You know, literally, I remember growing up and being in school doing dexterity tests. Like, yeah, I'm going to work for GM when I get older. You know, I'm going to go to the bar when I get out. I mean, it's the way that you live.
Yeah.
It's what you've seen your parents do.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, it's like if you knew that you had a good life ahead of you and it was a good economy and things were booming and you had this opportunity that, your chances of getting hooked on any type of substances was very low. But if you're in a town that had only 7,000 people and there's no economy and drugs are rampant, it just looks like, that relationship seems to be mutually exclusive.
It is. I really believe that. They don't know. Like, I know growing up in like Flint, and I mean, Flint's not a tiny town, but it is really generationally based. And I don't think had I ever left there and heard other people speak, I would have even known what generational trauma meant. Like, what do you mean I'm carrying around the things that my dad's did, and I got to fix that too? Yeah, because all that created trauma in me. No, I can't go back and fix them, but the hurt that I got from it, the trauma that I took on from it, I had to fix that. And I just don't think a lot of those people, when they never leave that, and Flint is just depressed. Literally, the only good income there is being a drug dealer.
Yeah, that and Detroit.
Yeah. I mean, Flint freaks me out. My dad still lives right in the city, and when I go up there and see him, I'm just like, it's so bad.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's not like down here. Down here is starkly different. You don't see people standing in the middle of the street, like sleeping,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Or having a fight with a stop sign or something,
Right. And plus up there, well, down here in Central Florida, we have such a police presence. Up there, I think they have 17 police for a whole city.
Wow. Yeah, they all came down here.
Yeah, everybody came down here, exactly. A lady was drunk and hit my dad's house with her car. And it took the police officers 4 hours.
Wow.
While the lady just passed out in her car, and my dad was like, well.
Man.
He's like, what do you want me to do if she wakes up? And they're like, let her go.
Yeah.
She didn't wake up. Till they got there.
Man.
Yeah, that's a crazy place.
Yikes. Man. Oof. So you do readings.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, those who have been watching thus far will probably get the hint. So if anybody wants a reading from you, they can reach out to you at your email there down below.
Yeah, I can also give my business line.
Oh, okay. All right.
386.
Let's see here. Let me throw that. 386.
337 0536. And just leave a voicemail or text, and I will appear.
Yeah. There you go. Go.
Yeah.
So you can give Traci a call, 386-337-0536 if you want a reading. And normally readings are what's the format of your reading?
I do 30-minute, 45-minute, and 1-hour increments. 30 minutes, I do 85. 45 minutes, I do 100, and 1 hour is 110.
Wow. All right. Cool. So what's your takeaway this evening? What is it out there that you want to want people to be apprehensive about, and something that for those out there that definitely need help, or looking for help for some other people.
Don't be afraid to reach out on social media to other people. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. There's a bunch of us that's waiting for people to ask for help. And we're like, we're here, you know?
Yeah. As well as yourself. I mean, people can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Please. Yes.
To assist. Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
sponsor people. I believe in medication assisted treatment. A lot of people who sponsor don't, and that's their personal opinion. I believe that Suboxone and things have saved so many people. Medication that stops them from using altogether. And education, don't take for certain everything you hear on the news about addiction, about fentanyl, about what's happening. Like, really look at it yourself and take away from that what you see from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to reach out. I mean, like I said, I didn't realize up until a couple of years ago, when COVID kind of forced me into wanting to be on social media more, how big that community of recovery is. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. That's so huge.
Yeah.
And they're literally no judgment.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, don't be afraid. Is a lot of people out there are afraid to come forward and admit that they have a problem because they're afraid that they're going to be judged.
Yeah.
And is that something that you felt before you came forward and admitted that, as far as being the fear of judgment?
Oh yeah, especially because of the type of work I did. If they know, they're going to think everything I did was wrong.
Yeah.
But you know what? They didn't. Nobody thought that. I thought that. Nobody else did. It was all in my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we can be our worst enemies.
Oh, we
sabotage.
are our worst enemies.
We sabotage it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's the main thing. Please don't be afraid to reach out. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to anybody. Just go, if you're on TikTok, just put in recovery and you're going to see hundreds of thousands of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Traci, it's been a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. And anybody out there that has watched the show thus far, or going to listen to this later on any of our podcast networks, we also just realized that we're on Amazon Music. So I've got all the links on the website to that, as well as in the description of the YouTube video. You can check out all of the podcast platforms that people can listen to this on. And they can find your information on those as well. They'll have the links, the hyperlinks and stuff, to be able to reach out to you for assistance.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You are very welcome. Traci, you have a wonderful, wonderful, nice blessings, my friend. Namaste.
Namaste.
Good night, everyone. You have a good evening. Thank you for watching To Conscious Radio Network. And until then, I will see you.